Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connections, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. I want to welcome Heidi Burkhart. She's the president and founder of Dane Real Estate. She founded it when she was 26, and just by reading on the great achievements she has under her belt, I said, I have to invite her to Back to Basics and let her tell her story. So hello, Heidi. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm very, very excited to have you. And I understand you're in New York City. So you guys are obviously in the midst like everybody else, but you really gotten hit by the coronavirus. How are you holding up there?
Yeah, I actually came down to my second home in North Carolina, but my whole team's back in New York City, and it's been tough. We definitely have had a lot of clients, and even within our own family at the office, we've had a few people that have been affected. So it's really tough to see that. But as we are in New York, we are resilient. So we always come back. So, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing sometimes is just sticking together like us New Yorkers do.
Absolutely. You are one tough city, that is for sure. One tough, beautiful city, because it's definitely one of my favorite cities in the whole world.
There's nothing like it now.
Yeah, so Heidi, I know you, and I want to talk. You're a philanthropist too. I should have said that in the introduction, and you've done pretty impressive things. I know you're an athlete, but I want you to walk us through it. So why don't we start with where are you from? What did you enjoy doing as a childhood? I envision that you didn't know as a child that you were going to end up in real estate. So I'm always curious about that journey into how did you get to do what you like?
Definitely. So I actually grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and was there until about 20 years old, and then I moved to New York. But when I was little, my mom and dad really forced us to be outside, and they also gave us their own summer school program. So we were always studying, we were always doing something, if it was being active in regards to exercise or as active using our brain, which was actually it helped contribute to me never being able to sit still, which, is not always a great trait, but at the same time, being able to always work out of issues, work out of problems and problem solve for myself, and create fun out of nothing. That's what really they taught us a lot of. And I really credit that in tennis when I was little to a lot of my success as an adult in regards to growing. And again, I think the biggest thing for us as adults is problem solving and making sure we don't go to the negative, but stay in the positive. So I think that, growing up in Ohio and being so focused on education, my dad always made us read these horrible books, which I think he just got on sale at the library. So my dad would always pick books up there, and we would have reading comprehension tests in the summer. And math problems, he would get a whole sheet done of math problems as we were growing up. And then once I hit 16, I actually got an internship at a Fortune 500 company. At the same time, I was taking college courses as well as in high school, and also got a retail job. I don't know why I chose to do so much all at once, but it was instilled in me just to always be busy and be occupied, I guess, and always trying to, as Einstein will say, have holy curiosity. Always kind of chase your imagination and chase kind of what ifs a little bit more than most people will sit back. So, I think looking at my childhood, those are the biggest thing and also my brothers and sisters, we definitely pushed each other to excel, to be better than what we were, and try to go and kind of competed, obviously, as us kids would do, and they always strive for the best. So I always strive for the best.
That sounds like a great upbringing. Is there anything in particular that you enjoy doing? It sounds that you had energy and you're very active. Besides tennis, that obviously you were playing competitively. Anything else?
No, I tried violin and I was horrible at it. So I gave it up pretty fast. I tried jazzercise when I was little, but once I wore the leotard, I remember as a little girl feeling really fat. So I didn't want to recital, which is so silly. But again, I was still, it just was in my head. And I was not that great either. And then I tried singing and I was horrible. So, I did try a lot of different things and failed at them miserably.
Well, I think it's part of the journey. We all have those. And I felt the same about leotards, by the way.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess the biggest thing was just tennis was such a big part of my life. And then eventually, sophomore and freshman year, I got some stress fractures in my back. So my friends actually became a huge part of my life back then. So tennis taught me how to be solo and just as well as being a doubles partner and a team effort in high school. But also my friends, we had a really good group of girls that we all just really wanted to be the best versions of ourselves. And even seeing where they've all gone now, it's just huge hearts, huge and done amazing in their careers. But again, huge hearts. So I think back when I was younger to where I am now, I've always surrounded myself with people with huge hearts. Hence the philanthropy that we'll eventually get into. But it's that's crucial for me because money's just money at the end of the day, right? You really want to make sure you're with people that really care about you.
Yeah, well, that well said. That's why you belong in this podcast. I'm happy, but it's true. It's true. But to come down to those terms, and we keep saying with the different guests that it gets to a point where you want to enjoy what you're doing. Exactly that. You want to be around good people and people with values, because at the end of the day, if it's about the journey and you don't get to spend that journey with someone that you admire or think the world of, it's almost like pointless.
Yep, I'd agree. You always want people to push you to be better, right? And better in a good way, not better in a bad way. So
absolutely. Well, that makes sense how you, at a fairly young age, you became very, focused into, I guess, affordable housing. Is that something that you started doing right away, or you had a path into things that you didn't enjoy as much before you got into what is today your career?
Yeah, the funny part is I actually moved out to New York City for pharmaceutical sales. And after 6 months of that, I really didn't enjoy it because I really wasn't using my finance degree or marketing degree. I was just kind of, I'll say it bluntly, kind of just expected to flirt with the doctors, which wasn't my thing. So I really wanted to get into something where I'd be using my degree. And then I saw a future in pharmaceutical sales, just becoming the manager didn't interest me. Ever since I've been little, I always wanted to be a CEO. And even now, I don't feel big enough, even where I'm at today. So I'm excited for the next few years to get to the level of what the little girl in me saw. So, yeah, so that was really what I didn't care for, just not using my full brain. And I knew I had more in me when I was doing pharmaceutical sales. So that was what transitioned me to real estate. Well, it transitioned me to want something different, and real estate rather fell in my lap. And I figured, why not give it a try? Because it fit finance and marketing, and I really didn't have anything else on my plate at the time. And looking back, it's funny though, because I went to real estate as a broker and you make zero money. So I don't know, again, why I went from making such a great salary to just making nothing and paying for everything, which is kind of comical.
Oh.
Because nowadays I really try to tell people not to become a broker if they don't need to, or if they don't really have a huge desire, because it's really hard. It's a hard industry, and it's not for the faint at heart at all. People always told me I was too nice. 15 years later and 18 years later, they're like, I did not think you were going to be successful at all. So it's like, yeah. I was like, well, thanks.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I always joke that I know there's people that when we got our first office, it was such a nice office. And I think people were making bets how long I was going to be able to pay that rent. And it feels good after 20 years that you still are able to pay the rent, right?
Exactly. It definitely feels good to prove people wrong on that, but I still have more to prove. So
yes, well, it sounds that way. It sounds that you were never motivated for money per se, which I think it's one of the traits that really make successful, like the real successful people. They all have a similar story. I find either that I read about it or I have them on my show. They say, well, I just wanted to enjoy what I was doing. I was passionate, or I had a vision, and it was never about the money. And then you have people that make a lot of money, but you don't feel them or hear them fulfilled. And so that's actually part of what I try to do with the podcast is to try to identify the commonalities between the people that are successful, but at the same time are also seem to be happy or fulfilled or seem to be on the right track to achieve what they envision for themselves.
Yeah, totally. I mean, don't get me wrong. You definitely need money to get where you need to go at times, but there's different sources of that. You know, I did do one company, Saxon Hart, was trying to be a direct marketing kind of campaign for giving back, and it failed horribly. It failed horribly. We did a ton of good, but it was not sustainable because there was no proven income stream, and we just kept on spitting out my own money on it. So I learned a huge lesson on that, saying that you do need to still worry about money in regards to, you know, ensuring your own livelihood and ensuring your own mental state to a certain degree even, but, you know, not everything. So you don't need millions and millions, but you need to make sure that, you know, you're okay mentally in order to make sure the rest of everybody around you is okay, because they're feeding off you, right? Your employees are feeding off you. So whatever you need to make sure you're always in that good mental state, not to go to drugs or anything of that nature. You want to always stay in a positive, euphoric kind of mindset. But whatever that means to you. So I do think you still need money to make sure you have your bases covered, but it's not the end all be all.
Absolutely. Yeah, or the main motivator, like, you know, because I do have friends that they wanted to be rich when we started and everything was about being rich. And they are rich, but if, you know, especially a couple of them, if do I see them happy? No, I don't. They're all super rich, have beautiful houses, but they kind of were so focused on that end goal that everything else around them crumbled in a way.
Yeah, I always found as brokers too, like everybody worried about what their splits were. And I always, where you grow in the longevity of things, you always have to give up something in order for a good relationship to work, you know, is compromise. Just like in personal relationships, you always compromise. Business is no different. To have a good relationship and a respectful one, both sides need to compromise constantly. So I think that knowing that the relationship is the most important factor in what I do, that no money will interfere with my really good relationships, because at the end of the day, my best relationships, I don't even know what they're paying me sometimes on deals, just whatever they decide that they want to pay me at the end of the deal.
Yeah.
So to me, that's everything, because they always treat me very fairly when I do that too, with the few that I can do that with.
Ah, well, that's amazing. And so you basically decided, okay, I want a career change, and then how did it happen that you went into real estate, but also not so much into real estate, but into an area or a niche of real estate that is not so spoken about, which is affordable houses.
Yeah, we're definitely the ugly stepchild until certain things like this happen. Then we turn into Cinderella. So
Yeah.
it's always kind of, but
Nice.
yeah, I would say it just fell into my lap. I met a guy, Brian Flaherty, and he worked at Aimco at the time. And he really supported me when I was younger. I think he just saw my ambition and my willingness to do whatever, you know, in regards to getting to the next level with people that respected me, you know. So I think, I still talk to him to this day, and he'll joke because he worked at home at the time, so he was just happy to talk to a voice, he always tells me. But, you know, there was camaraderie there and respect. So it was, you know, that definitely helped be the catalyst to me getting into affordable housing. But then I also met the industry. I started going to conferences because he's like, if you want more properties from me, you have to start going to conferences. And I did. And I just met this beautiful group of people who are all about the handshake, are all about their reputation, will not do anything wrong to other people because it's their reputation. And if you start doing that in the industry, then you're really kind of shunned away, which I actually appreciate. So it's kind of, you get hazed and you get, you know, as a good person, and you know, it's just a really good, solid group of good-hearted people. Yeah, they're making money doing what they are doing, but they're doing so much good for our communities that it's, you know, it's an awesome thing to be able to do good and make money. I'm a huge advocate for that.
Of course. That's
yeah,
like a win-win.
A huge win-win. I love win-wins. And so, yeah, so that's where, again, I just fell in love with the industry after going to a few conferences, and then met my friend Deborah Van Amerongen, who really kind of mentored me to understand programs and really try hard to understand contracts and the properties and what have you. And that was hugely instrumental in regards to my success. And, from that, when I started with Dane, it was one of the guys, Scott Jaffe in the industry, actually gave me free office space for a while just to get my feet under me after I left Eastern. So that was, that beyond was priceless.
Well, that's fantastic, and I love it that you find in how you're building your story to backtrack into those pivotal moments for people that had given you, that extra push that was needed at a certain time to really make it happen. And I think that's very important when we look back and we say, okay, this was a moment when this person, I don't know, gave me office space, just as you said, or introduce you to somebody and just give them a shootout even so many years afterwards. It's very powerful.
Oh, I think that, yeah, I agree. And it's funny, like Ken Pagano, Charlie Gendron, Lou Heinkind, Scott Jaffe, Deborah hears it all the time. I think that they start getting real annoyed of me saying thank you. Like I probably say thank you to them and feeling so blessed that they even cross my path at least 3 to 4 times a year. I get mental. So, but I think they're probably like, oh my God, you're a broken record, please. Even my friend Smith recently, I keep on telling him him and his wife are truly a blessing in my life. And they're probably like, who is this crazy lady?
No, but I think that's there's something to be said about that. I think you cannot thank enough the people that made it happen because it's a circle, It's and if you want that way, you make other people want to pay it forward and help someone.
Yep. And I say the same thing, pay it forward instead of giving back. So I think paying it forward is the key. I don't think it's giving forward and paying it forward, not giving back. To me, giving back means there's kind of like a favor in a way, but I love the pay it forward and giving forward. It's a better phrase.
Absolutely.
So
I love it
yeah.
myself. So yeah, no, I'm learning so much. I knew this was gonna be an interesting conversation, but I'm really loving it. And so, tell me about what's next. Like you have a very successful company. It seems that you've done a lot of what you wanted to do. Yet you still said, I still want to go further and realize the vision of the little girl.
Yeah, I would love to go further. I would love to grow Dane to where a force to be reckoned with, and someone like CBRE might try to buy us out eventually, because ultimately I do want to become more of a developer down the way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not too many women developers and owners across the nation, let alone worldwide. So I definitely want to start looking more heavily at that and my focus to go towards that. That being said, same time, I do love traveling, so we are starting to do a lot philanthropy with a focus. Not even philanthropy, but just really selling photography that I do as kind of my hobby. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have a lot of those profits, the net profits, go back to communities that really need it. For instance, there's a place in Rwanda that we saw the gorillas and Trek for the Gorillas, mm-hmm. and they're hit extremely hard by COVID, not from COVID itself, but from famine as a result of the tourism not being there. So I'm excited to do something with them in the near future to actually help that community out, because sometimes forget in times like these because the human race rather takes precedent. But I find that incredibly heroic that they're actually preserving that animal, being the mountain gorillas. So I'm excited to help areas like that only $10 is going to pay for their food for a week. I mean, it's hard to argue that.
No, that sounds amazing. I mean, you won a share of civic and charitable awards. So, I commend you because the list is long. Is there any one of those awards that you won that you're proud of? I know you work a lot with kids.
Work a lot with kids. We've done a lot of mentorship. It's all of them have their own love and appreciation, right? So it was all during different times of my life that we've developed different things to, be community focused. I would say just even affordable housing, even though it's not an award, just the longevity of being able to do and preserve so many low-income housing units for specifically like New York City, tri-state area. I mean, to me, that's an award in itself because there's so many families that depend on that. I'm sure there might be some that take advantage of the system. There's always those few, but the families actually have grown and their kids have grown from it. To me, that's more of an award than anything. So seeing people that we mentored actually get to the next level, to me, again, that's more of an award. Or seeing Austin, who was one of our Blink Cancer campaign parties, go into remission and not have cancer, brain cancer after having, I think it was 4 bouts of it. To me, that's an award. We gave him a positive outlook in life, and gave him something during the time he was getting his treatments. And, he's still a friend to this day. And he himself is such an amazing individual that, him still being here is an award to me, and just something that I'm really blessed that that's the case.
No, absolutely. Wow. It's a really remarkable work. And so I always had, towards the end of the interview, I have to ask, I'm sure there's been tough times, tough moments where, things are not going the way you wanted it. What do you do to kind of to keep connected to your energy, to keep true to who you are? Is there anything or any place or anything you do that reminds you of what makes you tick?
It's funny you say that. When I first came down here after COVID, I actually had my first panic attack, which I've never felt stressed or anxious in my whole life. And I did not know what was going on at all. And I actually called the EMS, and they had told me it was a panic attack, and I was just in awe because I'm never that person. I always work out when I feel anxious, and I never really feel anxious. So that was kind of eye-opening, because then I had to go exactly what you're asking me, is like, what can I do to calm myself down even more than I ever knew that I needed to be calmed down? And ultimately, it goes back to every 3 months, I usually travel somewhere. So I get myself off work, which I haven't been able to do. So I do find in normal situations that traveling humbles me, at the same time gives me time to breathe and not to be so overwhelmed constantly. Because otherwise I'm working 25/8, right? So I when I came down to North Carolina from New York City, I was working about 18 to 20 hours in front of the computer screen, which was not helping me. So I actually had to take time to work out like I used to do. I usually do 2 a day. I usually run 2 miles in the morning, then I go lift at night. And then I had to make sure I spent time away from the computer, which I think is incredibly important, and spend time like reconnecting with my family, which I always talk to them all the time, but, talking to them more and spending time with friends. So it was kind of, I had to slow down, and I always slow down in New York, but for some reason when I got here, I didn't feel like I could slow down because I was away from my office. But when I travel, I always find ways to slow down after like 2 days. So I think that's my biggest advice to people, is like, when you get overwhelmed, is really slow down and, take that trip once we get back to the new normal, and make sure, you have something to look forward to, which I look forward to travel. So I'm always going to use travel, because, when I'm traveling, I'm always able to take myself out of the situation and kind of look at the dance floor. Robert Greene, in one of his books, he always mentions that is, make sure at various times of the dance, you're not dancing on the floor. You actually go up on the balcony and start looking at everything so you can assess the situation. And then you can go back, take your step back, start putting yourself on that balcony, look down at what's going on so you can assess the situation, take a breather, and then go back in once you're ready. And to me, that's been huge. I hope to God I never have another panic attack. My God, that was horrible. But
I imagine, especially
oh,
not understanding what was going
yeah.
on. But I'm like you a little bit, and it's funny. I need to travel too, and we travel so much for work, right? That in times like this when you're kind of at home, I'm almost like don't feel the need to be moving around because we are going through something we never had, which is kind of being home. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you do miss it. And it's funny because 2 nights ago, I asked my kids and my husband, I said, okay, let's play this game. If you could go anywhere and like there's no COVID, there's no work, there's no school, you can choose where to go now. Where would you go? So I was playing that game with them. So I will ask you that. If you could go anywhere right now, where would you be going?
I would find the place where I can swim with humpback whales, so either Tonga or Antarctica. So I would either, one of those explorations would be heaven to me, and see some penguins. So I'm a
Wow.
huge penguin lover, and I love humpback whales, and I'm dying to take some photos of them underwater. So that would be my top of the list after all this, to go have the opportunity to see, and also go back to the gorillas eventually, because if you ever can get out to Rwanda and hike and trek and be with the gorillas for the hour that you're able to, it's unbelievable time, let alone the safari. So
Well, yeah, that
always,
sounds nice.
yeah, it's the Masamara during we actually were lucky and we went during the migration, and it was I will never think of life anything else but simple now, and just beautiful, because that's what Africa showed me, and I'm sure humpback whales and penguins will show me the same thing. So those. It's just so hard to pick. But those would probably be top three. I'll
Well,
say three.
the good news is with the hard hit that the travel industry is taking right now, I'm pretty sure you can get there pretty cheap.
I literally am like looking. I'm like, maybe I should buy some tickets there for next year right now, because I'm sure that they'll be hugely discounted.
Absolutely. I think yes. So well, that's great. I mean, Heidi, I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah,
You've been
travel,
fantastic.
that's for sure.
Definitely, we have to do an episode on travel destinations. You sound like you could give me some nice tips about where to go.
Same to you as well. So I still have yet to travel down to South America as much. I've been to Galapagos, but I'm dying to get to Peru and Chile and a few other places.
Yeah,
So
South America is one. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. There are beautiful places to visit for sure. And the world is big. That's a good news. And there's a lot of exploration out there to be done. There's no better activity, I think, to humble yourself, as you said. I think that was a great word you used to realize how small we are.
yep, I couldn't agree more. So anytime I'm here, and I love travel, so that will probably be like a 4-hour conversation. So
Fantastic, fantastic. And then we'll put your pictures on the show notes to show everybody
yes,
what you did. But I really thank you for your time. I think this has been great. You are a force to be reckoned with for sure. I can feel your energy, and I admire all you've achieved. You really inspire me to even want to do more. So I think that's really the purpose of the podcast. I'm sure anybody listening will have felt the same.
thank you. I appreciate it. I'm here anytime. So thank you again for your time too.
Thank you, Heidi. Stay safe and enjoy North Carolina.
Will do. Thank you.
Take care.